It's a baby girl. Hey, my sweet girl.
You're my best friend. And now our girls are birthdays. I think about it every day, Edith. I'll never stop blaming myself. I owe you and your baby.
Thank you, Claire.
Oh, my baby!
Are you sure about this, Edith? What if Claire finds out?
She's not smarter. She's not hotter. She's just lucky born with a big silver spoon up her ass. And she has the nerve to make me her secretary. Like that was a charity. And my brilliant husband doesn't get himself killed before he even my baby like a princess. And I'm gonna
make her a darling angel.
pay for everything that I have been through.
I'd like to see you try and hurt my daughter.
Totally stunning. My girl could wear it, it'll steal the show.
Phoebe. Of course, Edith. I love everything you give me.
Thomas a rock, God knows where.
Raise a child like that, there's gotta be a better way.
Being around like the world owes her, always with a damn attitude.
What, do you need a written invitation?
I'm sorry, Mom.
That's your daughter, not a punching bag.
A damn curse!
She's lucky that I haven't.
Their birthday party's coming up soon. How do you expect to show her face? Is he upstairs? Help her with her wounds. Yeah, that's the plan. Why?
She is just born to lead. My blood. The second you sign those papers.
You really think the girl you've been abusing years is mine? Can't wait the world collapse when you find out the truth.
It's a rug, not a museum piece.
Room is gorgeous. It's just like you.
Your mom gave me this?
And if my mom sees me wearing your stuff, she'll kill.
Call it an early present.
Girl, you look at Mom, isn't she coming in that dress?
Hey, Claire! The only one's nice to me. You little thief!
Oh, you gave it away?
That's okay. Look, I'm gonna take you out. Closets full of gowns, but Lucy doesn't even own a proper dress. Don't talk about her like that. It's cool.
You don't get to play princess.
Those shoes are my gift to Lucy. They party with nothing decent to wear?
Like that don't get to play dress-ups.
Edith, she's your daughter. How could you say that?
Come on, she's not some porcelain doll.
I said take it off.
Still not moving? Okay.
Pathetic rat! Look, you broke your chest. Get already. Phoebe, did she frighten you? Oh, you worthless little rat. Look, a little Phoebe's frog. Mom, isn't Lucy Edith's daughter? Why is she so cruel to her?
I wish I knew, baby. Maybe losing Lucy's father so young broke something inside of the girl you've tortured all these years is your own. I hope the guilt eats you alive.
She ruined Phoebe's dress, so she got the punishment she deserves. Don't make a scene. Kids bounce back. She's fine.
If she causes any trouble, we'll just throw her in the basement.
Today is all about just here to help you with your dress and keep her mouth shut.
Phoebe's maid.
I'm just your secretary, remember? So clear when you're with the dress. That's a privilege.
She was picking up your mess when she cut herself.
Phoebe's mature. She takes care of her own space.
Don't ever try to compare the two. They're gonna be signing 7-figure deals one day. That's what they're here for.
So, Blink, while your daughter is bleak, Phoebe was your daughter.
I've always treated your girl as my own.
Imagine discovering that your closest friend, someone you trusted with your deepest secrets, someone who stood by your side through life's hardest moments, has been plotting your destruction from the very beginning. Now imagine that betrayal isn't just personal, but biological. She wants to steal your child, replace your daughter with her own, and condemn your flesh and blood to a life of poverty while her daughter inherits everything that rightfully belongs to yours. This is the nightmare at the heart of Pewaris, Yang Ditukar Sahabatku, a drama that transforms the switched at birth trope into a psychological warfare zone where friendship becomes the perfect disguise for hatred. Edith, a widow who lost her husband in an accident while he worked as a driver for the wealthy Watts family, doesn't just grieve, she transforms her loss into a vendetta. In her twisted logic, Claire and her family owe her compensation for taking away her husband, and that compensation comes in the form of switching their newborn babies. What Edith doesn't know is that Claire discovers the plan at the crucial moment and makes a decision that will define both their lives for the next 18 years. She switches the babies back and says nothing. This isn't just a story about mistaken identity. It's an exploration of how hatred can become so all-consuming that it blinds us to reality, how the desire for revenge can make us commit atrocities against those we should love most, and most disturbingly, how justice and cruelty can wear identical masks. For 18 years, Claire watches as Edith pours love and affection onto Phoebe, the girl Edith believes is her daughter, but is actually Claire's biological child. For 18 years, Claire watches as Edith systematically abuses Lucy, treating her with cruelty and contempt, never knowing that Lucy is actually her own flesh and blood. The emotional promise this drama makes to its audience is both cathartic and deeply unsettling. We're promised the satisfaction of watching someone hoist by their own petard, Edith's carefully constructed revenge plot becoming the instrument of her own destruction. There's a primal satisfaction in witnessing poetic justice, in seeing someone who planned to hurt an innocent child end up hurting her own child instead. But the drama doesn't let us off that easily. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about Claire's choices. Is she truly the hero of this story? If she allowed Lucy, an innocent child, regardless of whose DNA she carries, to suffer abuse for nearly 2 decades just to teach Edith a lesson? The genius of this premise lies in its moral complexity. In most narratives, we have clear heroes and villains. Here, we have a protagonist whose method of achieving justice is itself morally questionable. Claire doesn't prevent the crime. She allows it to unfold in a way that will maximize Edith's eventual suffering. This is vengeance, disguised as righteousness, a slow burn trap that takes 18 years to spring. The dramatic irony, where the audience knows truths hidden from characters, creates unbearable tension. Every scene where Edith mistreats Lucy carries the weight of tragic irony. She's destroying her relationship with her actual daughter because she's so consumed by hatred for what she believes Lucy represents. This drama speaks to anyone who has ever felt the sting of betrayal from someone close. It taps into the universal human experience of trust, violated, of realizing that someone's kindness was always performative, always hiding something darker underneath. The extremity of the situation, babies switched, decades of abuse, wealth, and inheritance at stake, heightens the emotional stakes. But at its core, this is about the intimate terror of discovering that the person you thought you knew never existed at all. What elevates Pewaris yang Ditukar Sahabatku beyond typical melodrama is its willingness to examine the psychology of revenge. Edith is driven by loss, by the very real pain of losing her husband and being left in financial insecurity. Her villainy doesn't emerge from pure evil, but from grief, metastasizing into hatred, from victimhood curdling into entitlement. She genuinely believes she's owed something, that switching the babies is a form of cosmic rebalancing. This doesn't excuse her actions, but it provides psychological texture that makes her more than a cardboard villain. Similarly, Claire's decision to play the long game, to let Edith's plan seemingly succeed while knowing the truth, reveals something about the seductive nature of revenge. There's something almost godlike in her position. She holds all the knowledge, controls all the variables, and watches as Edith unknowingly fulfills her own damnation. But godlike power comes with godlike distance, and that distance requires Claire to witness a child's suffering without intervening. The question haunts the entire narrative. Does the righteousness of the eventual outcome justify the years of pain Lucy endures? The drama promises us the explosive moment of revelation, when all lies collapse and truth emerges in the most devastating way possible. Imagine Edith's confidence when she decides to make the switch public, to claim Phoebe officially as her daughter, and secure access to the Watts' fortune. Imagine her triumph as she prepares for the DNA test that will prove her claim. Now, imagine the world-shattering moment when those results come back showing the opposite. Lucy is her biological daughter, and Phoebe belongs to Claire. This isn't just losing a legal battle or missing out on money. This is the annihilation of identity, the horrifying realization that every act of love she showed Phoebe was meant for Lucy, and every act of cruelty she inflicted on Lucy was inflicted on her own child. But the drama also promises something darker than simple catharsis. Lucy ends up in a coma after being stabbed, a brutal reminder that in wars between adults, children pay the highest price. No one emerges from this unscathed. Edith loses everything, her daughter's love, her freedom, as she faces imprisonment and her sense of self. Claire may have achieved justice, but at what cost to her own soul? She preserved her biological daughter's privilege, but she did so by sacrificing another child's well-being for 18 years. This is a story that understands revenge is never clean. It's messy, painful, and often leaves everyone damaged. The emotional journey Pewaris Young, Ditukar Sahabatku offers isn't just about watching a villain get their comeuppance. It's about confronting the uncomfortable truth that the line between justice and vengeance is thinner than we'd like to believe, and that sometimes the greatest betrayals come from people we trusted most. Claire stands as the psychological centerpiece of this narrative, a woman who must live a double life for nearly 2 decades, performing normalcy while carrying devastating knowledge. Her core wound isn't just Edith's betrayal. It's the impossible position the betrayal forces her into. At the critical moment, when she discovers Edith's plan to switch the babies, Claire faces a choice that will define her character: expose the plot immediately and save everyone from years of pain, or switch the babies back secretly and allow Edith to destroy herself with her own hatred. She chooses the latter, and that choice reveals everything about her psychological architecture. Claire operates under a belief system that prioritizes ultimate justice over immediate mercy. In her worldview, it's not enough to simply stop Edith from stealing Phoebe's inheritance. Edith must experience the full consequences of her malice. This is Old Testament thinking, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, but stretched across 18 years. Claire becomes the architect of a punishment so perfectly ironic, it borders on divine retribution. Edith wanted to hurt Claire's daughter. Let Edith hurt her own daughter instead, believing all the while that she's achieving her revenge. But this philosophical framework requires Claire to develop defense mechanisms that would make a psychologist's head spin. She must practice what we might call strategic compartmentalization, the ability to witness Lucy's suffering and reframe it not as something she's allowing to happen, but as the natural consequence of Edith's choices. Every bruise on Lucy's body, every moment of verbal abuse, every instance of neglect must be mentally filed under Edith's crime rather than Claire's complicity. This is psychological judo of the highest order, transforming guilt into righteousness, inaction into strategy, witnessing into evidence, gathering. The mask Claire wears in Edith's presence is perhaps her most impressive psychological construction. She must maintain their friendship, must smile and chat and share parenting stories, all while knowing that the woman across from her is abusing her own biological child out of misdirected hatred. This requires emotional dissociation on a scale that would exhaust anyone. The constant performance of ignorance, the careful calibration of reactions to ensure Edith never suspects the truth. Claire becomes a method actor in a role that lasts nearly 2 decades, where a single slip could unravel everything. The contradiction at Claire's core is the gap between her self-perception as a protective mother and the reality of her choices. Her stated desire is to protect Phoebe and ensure Edith faces justice, but her deeper need, perhaps one she never consciously acknowledges, is to prove her intellectual and moral superiority over Edith. It's not enough for Claire to win. Edith must lose so completely, so publicly, so ironically, that the loss itself becomes legendary. This need for perfect revenge reveals something uncomfortable about Claire. Beneath her righteous anger lies pride, and pride demands spectacle, not just safety. Edith presents a psychological profile of grief transformed into weaponized hatred. Her core wound is the loss of her husband, a driver who died in an accident while working for the Watts family. But grief is notoriously unstable. It seeks containers, explanations, targets. Edith's grief finds its container in class resentment and its target in Claire's family. In Edith's psychological framework, her husband's death wasn't a tragic accident, but a symptom of class exploitation. Poor people dying while serving rich people, widows left with nothing, while the wealthy continue their comfortable lives. This framing allows Edith to construct a moral narrative where she's not the villain, but the righteous rebel, not the thief, but the revolutionary redistributing wealth. In her mind, switching the babies isn't kidnapping, it's reparations. Her daughter deserves the Watts fortune because that fortune was built on the backs of people like her husband. This is how humans justify the unjustifiable, by constructing elaborate philosophical frameworks that recast cruelty as justice. Edith's most devastating defense mechanism is projection. Unable to process her anger at fate, at her husband for dying, at herself for her helplessness, she projects it all onto Lucy, the child she believes is Claire's daughter. Lucy becomes a living voodoo doll where Edith can stab at everything she hates about the Watts family. Every act of abuse is secretly directed at Claire, at the wealthy family that took her husband, at the cosmic injustice of her situation. Lucy suffers not for who she is, but for what Edith needs her to represent. The tragic irony is that Edith genuinely loves Phoebe, believes she's loving her own daughter, pours into this relationship all the maternal affection she possesses. This creates a psychological truth so painful it's almost unbearable. Edith is capable of love, but she directs it at the wrong child while destroying her actual daughter. This isn't a mother who can't love. It's a mother whose love is catastrophically misdirected by her own scheme. Every tender moment with Phoebe is a moment stolen from Lucy. Every expression of pride in Phoebe is a rejection of Lucy, and Edith has no idea she's living in an inverted reality. Lucy carries the heaviest psychological burden. She's the innocent who suffers for crimes she didn't commit, for wars she didn't start, for hatreds that have nothing to do with her actual identity. Her core wound isn't a single trauma, but cumulative. 18 years of systematic rejection by the person who should love her unconditionally. This creates a belief system centered on fundamental unworthiness. If my own mother can't love me, there must be something intrinsically wrong with me. Lucy's defense mechanism is internalization. She takes Edith's hatred and assumes it's deserved, that if she could just be better, quieter, more perfect, maybe she could earn the love that should be automatic. This is the psychological trap of abused children. They blame themselves for their abuse because believing I'm bad is paradoxically less terrifying than believing my parent is unpredictable and dangerous. The first option suggests the possibility of control. If I'm the problem, I can fix me. The second option offers only helplessness. Lucy's deepest desire is simple and heartbreaking. She wants her mother to love her, but her actual need, one she can't articulate until the truth emerges, is to understand that the absence of that love says nothing about her worth. When the DNA results finally reveal the truth, Lucy experiences a psychological earthquake. Every moment of abuse suddenly has an explanation that has nothing to do with her value as a human being. This is simultaneously liberating. It wasn't my fault, and devastating. My biological mother hated me while thinking I was someone else. Phoebe occupies a unique psychological space as the innocent beneficiary of crime. She grows up loved, secure, privileged, never knowing that her entire identity is built on a lie. Her mother isn't her mother. Her inheritance isn't her inheritance, and the life she's lived belongs to someone else. When truth emerges, Phoebe faces an identity crisis of existential proportions. Every memory becomes suspect. Was Edith's love real if it was meant for a different child? Who is Phoebe if she's not who she thought she was? The foundation of her selfhood cracks, and she must rebuild from ground zero. The relationships between these characters function as psychological mirrors, revealing internal contradictions. Claire sees in Lucy what could have happened to Phoebe, which justifies her inaction, but she refuses to see herself as complicit in Lucy's actual suffering. Edith sees in Phoebe the daughter she wanted, and in Lucy the enemy's child she needs to punish, never realizing she's loving a stranger while destroying her own flesh and blood. Lucy sees in Phoebe the life she should have had, creating a complex emotional landscape where jealousy and recognition coexist. Phoebe exists in ignorant contentment until revelation destroys her entire understanding of herself. What makes this psychological exploration so rich is the absence of simple villainy. Claire is our protagonist, but her methods are morally gray at best. Edith is our antagonist, but she's driven by real grief and class resentment that, while not excusing her actions, make her comprehensibly human. Lucy is pure victim, But her suffering indicts not just Edith, but also Claire's willingness to sacrifice one child's well-being for another's. No one is purely good or purely evil. Everyone is damaged, making damage. The drama asks psychological questions that disturb. At what point does seeking justice become perpetrating injustice? Can we truly call ourselves moral if we witness suffering and do nothing to stop it, even if that inaction serves a greater goal? Does the purity of our motives matter if the consequences of our choices cause harm? These questions don't have comfortable answers, only the complicated truth that humans are capable of rationalizing almost anything when we believe we're on the right side of history. The friendship between Claire and Edith is the poisoned heart of this narrative, a relationship that should be built on trust and mutual support, but has become a stage for elaborate psychological warfare. What makes this dynamic so unsettling is that both women perform the rituals of friendship while harboring secrets that would destroy the other. They meet for coffee, discuss their daughters, share the mundane details of daily life, all while playing a game where the stakes are nothing less than their children's futures and their own souls. The power dynamics in this relationship shift invisibly beneath the surface of pleasantries. Initially, Edith believes she holds all the power. She thinks she's successfully deceived Claire, stolen her daughter's birthright, and is watching her revenge unfold perfectly. This perceived power allows Edith to savor every interaction with Claire, finding secret pleasure in the knowledge that she's winning a game Claire doesn't even know they're playing. Every smile is a private victory, every discussion about the girls a reminder of her successful deception. But the true power belongs to Claire, and therein lies the relationship's most chilling aspect. Claire doesn't just know about the deception, she's countered it and is watching Edith destroy herself. Their friendship becomes a form of theater where Claire plays the role of oblivious friend while actually serving as witness, judge, and executioner. The relationship's authenticity is completely hollow. It exists only as the mechanism through which Claire's long-term plan unfolds. Yet both women must maintain the fiction, creating a codependency based not on affection, but on mutual deception. The relationship between Edith and Lucy is the narrative's most painful connection, a mother-daughter bond that should be biology's purest expression, but has become an outlet for misdirected hatred. Edith looks at Lucy and sees Claire's daughter, sees wealth and privilege she wants to punish, sees the embodiment of everything she resents. She doesn't see the actual child before her, doesn't recognize her own features in Lucy's face, doesn't feel the biological pull that should make harming her impossible. Lucy, meanwhile, experiences the universal need all children have to be loved by their mother. She doesn't understand that Edith's rejection has nothing to do with her actual self and everything to do with who Edith believes she is. This creates a relationship dynamic of desperate seeking met by cold rejection, of a child constantly trying to earn love that should be unconditional. Lucy adapts her behavior, makes herself smaller, tries to anticipate and avoid Edith's anger. All the survival mechanisms of children in abusive homes. She can never succeed because the problem isn't her behavior. It's Edith's fundamental misidentification of who she is. The tragedy deepens when we consider that this relationship contains genuine biological connection. Edith and Lucy are actually mother and daughter. Some primal part of Edith must recognize Lucy on a level beneath conscious thought, which might explain why her hatred is so intense. Perhaps she unconsciously resents Lucy for making her feel something she doesn't want to feel, for creating cognitive dissonance between what she believes. This is Claire's daughter whom I should hate, and what her biology might be telling her. This child is mine. Conversely, the relationship between Edith and Phoebe appears warm and nurturing, but is built on complete falsehood. Edith lavishes Phoebe with the love she thinks she's giving her daughter, never knowing she's caring for her enemy's child. Phoebe receives this love and naturally reciprocates, creating what seems like an authentic mother-daughter bond. But the relationship's foundation is quicksand. Every memory, every I love you, every moment of maternal pride will be recontextualized when truth emerges. For Phoebe, the revelation will transform every childhood memory. Was Edith's love real if it was meant for someone else? Can love be authentic when it's based on mistaken identity? These questions have no easy answers. The emotions were real. Edith truly felt maternal love. Phoebe truly felt loved, but the circumstances were false. It's like discovering you've been in a relationship with someone who was pretending to be someone else. The feelings were genuine, but the foundation was fiction. Claire's relationship with Phoebe presents another layer of complexity. Claire knows Phoebe is her biological daughter, but must watch her grow up in another woman's home, being raised according to Edith's values, developing a bond with Edith that should belong to Claire. This requires an almost superhuman level of restraint. Every milestone, first words, first day of school, graduations, belongs to Edith, while Claire watches from a distance, knowing the truth, but unable to claim her daughter. Yet Claire also knows that Phoebe is safe, is loved, is being given opportunities and affection. There's a bitter irony here. Edith's misdirected maternal love means Phoebe is actually well cared for, even though it's Lucy who suffers. This creates moral ambiguity in Claire's position. If she had exposed the truth immediately, Phoebe would have been raised by Claire, but Edith would have escaped the full consequences of her malice. By waiting, Claire ensures poetic justice, but also ensures Phoebe will experience devastating identity upheaval when truth emerges. The relationship between Lucy and Phoebe is perhaps the most complex of all. They're sisters by biology, strangers by upbringing, and they exist in parallel lives that should have been reversed. If they interact as children, the drama doesn't fully detail their direct relationship. There must be a complicated dynamic of jealousy, resentment, and perhaps unconscious recognition of similarity. Lucy sees in Phoebe everything she's denied: maternal love, security, privilege, the simple freedom to exist without fear. When truth is revealed, Lucy and Phoebe must navigate an impossible situation. They're biological sisters who grew up as strangers. Lucy should resent Phoebe for living the life that was meant to be hers. Yet Phoebe is innocent. She didn't choose this, didn't know, didn't benefit consciously from Lucy's suffering. Phoebe should feel guilt for unknowingly occupying Lucy's place. Yet she's also a victim of Edith's scheme. Their relationship going forward would require both to see each other as fellow victims of adult machinations rather than as competitors or enemies. The broader network of relationships, extended family, friends, community, all exist in ignorance of the true dynamics at play. Everyone sees what appears to be two single mothers raising daughters, one doing well and one struggling. They don't see the elaborate psychological chess game, don't understand that every family dinner, every school event, every casual interaction is laden with hidden meaning and suppressed truth. The social performance required of both Claire and Edith is exhausting, maintaining normalcy while living extraordinary deception. What this web of relationships ultimately reveals is how human connections can be simultaneously genuine and false. Edith's love for Phoebe is emotionally real, even though it's directed at the wrong person. Lucy's desire for Edith's approval is heartbreakingly authentic, even though it's doomed from the start. Claire's friendship with Edith is completely performative, yet sustained for 18 years. Phoebe's bond with Edith feels true to her, but will be questioned forever once she knows the truth. The drama demonstrates that relationships aren't simple equations of truth and lies. They're complicated constructions where feeling and fact can diverge dramatically, where the same relationship can be both authentic and fraudulent depending on which layer you examine. Pewaris, Yang Ditukar Sahabatku, operates on a level of symbolic resonance that elevates it beyond simple melodrama into a meditation on identity, justice, and the masks we wear. The central symbolic element is, of course, the switched babies themselves, not just a plot device, but a metaphor for how easily identity can be stolen, how fragile the line is between who we are and who circumstances make us become. The act of switching babies represents the ultimate violation of identity. These infants, blank slates without memory or established personality, become symbols of pure potential that can be redirected, reshaped, stolen. The switch asks a profound question. What makes us who we are? Is Lucy fundamentally a Watts daughter because of her DNA? Or has 18 years of abuse and poverty made her into someone entirely different from who she would have been? Is Phoebe authentically Edith's daughter because that's who raised her? Or is biology destiny? The drama refuses easy answers, using the physical switch as a metaphor for the philosophical debate between nature and nurture. Motherhood itself becomes a complex symbol throughout the narrative. Traditionally, maternal love is presented as unconditional, biological, instinctive, the one relationship that transcends circumstance. But Pewaris Yang Ditukar Sahabatku, systematically deconstructs this myth. Edith proves that a biological mother can hate her own child if she doesn't know that's who they are, suggesting maternal love isn't mystically connected to DNA, but to belief and knowledge. Claire demonstrates that a mother can watch another woman's child suffer if protecting her own child requires it, showing that maternal love, while powerful, isn't universal. It's particular, focused, sometimes selfish. The home environments serve as visual metaphors for the girl's internal states and social positions. Phoebe's home with Edith likely represents false comfort, beautiful on the surface but built on lies. Every object in that home, every comfort Phoebe enjoys, symbolically belongs to Lucy. The home becomes a physical manifestation of stolen inheritance, where even the appearance of belonging is fraudulent. When Phoebe eventually learns the truth, the home that was her sanctuary will transform into a museum of lies, every corner holding memories that must be reinterpreted. Lucy's living situation, presumably more modest given Edith's actual financial circumstances, represents authentic suffering in the correct reality. Unlike Phoebe's false comfort, Lucy's struggles are genuine responses to her actual circumstances. There's a brutal honesty in Lucy's environment. Her suffering isn't hidden behind pretty curtains or comfortable furniture. This creates a symbolic opposition: false luxury versus honest poverty, comfortable lies versus uncomfortable truths. Scars and bruises on Lucy's body function as physical evidence of emotional crimes. They're the visible manifestations of invisible hatred. Each mark tells a story of misdirected rage, of punishment for crimes Lucy didn't commit, for an identity she doesn't actually possess. These physical symbols accumulate over 18 years, creating a map of suffering written on skin. When truth emerges and Edith realizes what she's done, these scars become permanent reminders of irreversible harm, symbols of motherhood perverted into violence. The DNA test results serve as the drama's most powerful symbolic object, a piece of paper that contains the power to destroy worlds. Scientific truth, rendered in percentages and genetic markers, becomes the instrument of revelation, the undeniable proof that cuts through years of deception. The test symbolizes how truth, no matter how long suppressed, eventually demands recognition. It's cold, objective, unmoved by emotion or intention. It simply states what is, and in doing so, demolishes what people believe to be real. Time itself operates symbolically in this narrative. 18 years, nearly 2 decades, represents a complete childhood stolen, a generation of suffering endured, a patience so profound it borders on obsessive. This isn't impulsive revenge, but calculated, sustained, almost biblical in its scope. The length of time symbolizes the depths of Claire's commitment to perfect justice, but also the cruelty of delayed revelation. Every year that passes is another year. Lucy suffers needlessly. Another year of Edith's false triumph. Another year of Phoebe building an identity that will crumble. The symbolic irony of Edith's situation cannot be overstated. She designs a revenge plot meant to hurt Claire by stealing her daughter's inheritance and subjecting her to poverty and abuse. But the universe, or rather Claire's countermove, redirects all that malice back onto Edith's own child. This creates a symbolic mirror, where Edith becomes her own victim, where every act of cruelty she commits is actually self-harm. The metaphor suggests that hatred, when pursued with enough intensity, inevitably curves back on itself. Edith doesn't just hurt Lucy, she destroys her own opportunity for authentic motherhood, murders the relationship with her real daughter before it can even begin. Names carry symbolic weight in this drama. Lucy and Phoebe, whatever their original names might be, exist in wrong nomenclature, carrying names attached to false identities. A name is supposed to be the most basic element of identity, yet theirs are lies. When revelation comes, do they keep the names they've always known, or do they reclaim names that should have been theirs? Either choice carries symbolic meaning. Keeping their raised names honors the reality of their lived experience, while reclaiming their birth names asserts biological truth over social construction. The concept of inheritance. The Watts fortune that motivates Edith's scheme symbolizes more than just money. It represents opportunity, security, the ability to determine one's own future. But it also symbolizes the arbitrary nature of privilege, how accident of birth creates vastly different life trajectories. Lucy's stolen inheritance isn't just wealth, It's education, healthcare, choices, freedom from fear and want. Phoebe's false inheritance represents how we can live entire lives in situations we don't deserve, benefiting from or suffering for circumstances beyond our control. Blood becomes a multi-layered symbol. There's biological blood, DNA that determines legal parentage and inheritance. There's spilled blood. Lucy ends up in a coma after being stabbed, a reminder that these psychological and social conflicts have physical consequences. Blood is supposed to be thicker than water, but this drama proves blood relationships mean nothing if people don't know they exist. Edith shares blood with Lucy, but treats her worse than an enemy. Claire shares blood with Phoebe, but allows her to be raised by another woman. The symbol of blood, traditionally representing unbreakable family bonds, is revealed as meaningful only when accompanied by knowledge and choice. The courtroom, or moment of public revelation, when Edith attempts to legally claim Phoebe, symbolizes the transformation of private truth into public knowledge. For 18 years, this drama has played out in private spaces, homes, personal interactions, secret knowledge held by Claire. The move into public space, where DNA evidence is formally presented and legal claims are made, represents truth's refusal to remain hidden forever. Private sins demand public reckoning. Mirrors and reflections, if employed visually in the drama, would serve as perfect metaphors for the distorted realities these characters inhabit. Edith looks at Lucy and sees Claire's daughter. Her perception is a distorted reflection of reality. Claire looks at Phoebe and sees her biological daughter living a false life. Accurate perception, but no ability to claim it. Lucy looks at herself and sees someone fundamentally unlovable, a reflection distorted by years of abuse. Phoebe looks at herself and sees Edith's daughter, a reflection that seems clear but is completely false. The ultimate symbol is the trap itself, the elaborate construction that Claire builds and Edith walks into blindly. This represents how our own malice can become the instrument of our destruction, how schemes built on hatred contain the seeds of their own failure. Edith constructs the trap, the baby switch, but Claire repurposes it, turning Edith's weapon against her. The symbol suggests that evil isn't destroyed by good in direct confrontation, but by its own contradictions, by the way hatred blinds us to consequences and makes us architects of our own suffering. At its deepest level, Pewaris young, Ditukar Sahabatku, wrestles with a question that has haunted human civilization since we first developed moral consciousness. What is justice? And does the pursuit of it justify causing harm to innocents? This isn't an abstract philosophical exercise, but a lived dilemma embodied in every choice Claire makes over 18 years. She knows the truth about the switched babies, possesses the power to end Lucy's suffering immediately, yet chooses not to, because she's pursuing a more perfect, more devastating form of justice, one where Edith doesn't just fail, but destroys herself through her own hatred. The drama forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality that justice and vengeance often wear identical clothing. Claire would call her plan justice, allowing Edith to face the full consequences of her malicious intent. But isn't 18 years of watching a child suffer, even in service of eventual revelation, also a form of vengeance? The philosophical tension here is exquisite. If your method of achieving justice requires you to permit injustice, are you still pursuing justice? Or have you become another perpetrator? The drama doesn't answer this question. It holds it up like a mirror, forcing us to examine our own beliefs about righteous punishment and acceptable collateral damage. Connected to this is the theme of knowledge as power and burden. Claire's knowledge of the truth gives her power over Edith, but it also burdens her with moral responsibility for everything she allows to happen. This explores an ancient philosophical problem. If you have the power to prevent harm, but choose not to, are you complicit in that harm? Traditional ethics would say yes. The ability to act creates the obligation to act. But Claire operates under a different moral framework, one that prioritizes ultimate accountability over immediate intervention. She is playing a long game where short-term suffering is accepted as the price for long-term justice. The drama also examines the construction of identity through the lens of the switched babies. Lucy and Phoebe become living experiments in the nature versus nurture debate. Lucy carries Watt's DNA, but grows up abused and impoverished. Phoebe carries working-class DNA, but grows up privileged and loved. When the truth emerges, who are they really? The drama suggests that identity isn't simply genetic or environmental, but something more complex. A synthesis of biological potential and lived experience that can't be easily untangled. This raises profound questions about inheritance and privilege. Does Lucy deserve The Watts fortune because of her DNA, even though she's never lived as a Watts daughter, never been shaped by that family's culture and values? Does Phoebe deserve to lose everything because of a crime she didn't commit, didn't know about, and couldn't have prevented? The drama uses the inheritance question as a lens to examine larger social questions about merit, desert, and the arbitrary nature of privilege. None of us choose the families we're born into, yet those accidents of birth determine so much of our life trajectory. The baby switch just makes this normally invisible unfairness hyper-visible. The theme of motherhood, what it means, what it requires, what it can become when corrupted, runs through every scene like a dark river. Edith believes biology makes her Phoebe's mother, but she doesn't actually share biology with Phoebe. She shares it with Lucy, whom she treats with cruelty. This reveals that motherhood, despite our cultural mythology about it, isn't instinctive or automatic. It requires knowledge, intention, choice. Edith is biologically Lucy's mother, but functionally she's her abuser. Claire is biologically Phoebe's mother, but functionally she's absent. The drama asks, what makes someone a mother? The moment of birth or the years of raising? And if the answer is both, what happens when those two elements are split between different people? Connected to this is the exploration of how love can coexist with terrible choices. Edith genuinely loves the child she believes is her daughter. Her affection for Phoebe appears authentic even though it's based on false identification. Claire genuinely loves Phoebe enough to want justice for her, but that same love doesn't extend to protecting Lucy from suffering. The drama suggests that love isn't a universal force that makes us better people. It's a particular attachment that can make us cruel to those outside its circle. Maternal love is fierce, focused, sometimes selfish. It protects its object, but offers no mercy to threats against that object. The theme of time and patience operates on multiple levels. 18 years represents an almost superhuman commitment to revenge, suggesting that the desire for perfect justice can become its own form of obsession. Claire's willingness to wait nearly 2 decades raises the question, at what point does patience become pathology? When does the pursuit of justice transform into something darker, a need to control, to orchestrate suffering, to play God with other people's lives? The drama doesn't explicitly condemn Claire, but it invites us to feel uncomfortable with the implications of her choices. There's also a meditation on the nature of truth and revelation. For 18 years, objective truth exists. Lucy is Edith's daughter. Phoebe is Claire's. But this truth is sequestered, known only to Claire. The drama explores how truth without revelation is almost meaningless in practical terms. It exists, but doesn't function, doesn't shape reality, doesn't correct injustice. Only when truth moves from private knowledge to public acknowledgement does it gain power to transform circumstances. This speaks to larger questions about how societies handle truth. Knowing something happened and publicly acknowledging it are vastly different things, with vastly different consequences. The philosophical question of determinism versus choice threads through the narrative. Did Edith have to become who she became? Or could she have processed her grief differently, chosen a path other than revenge? Did Claire have to respond as she did? Or could she have found a way to protect both girls while still ensuring Edith faced consequences? The drama presents characters whose choices seem inevitable, given their personalities and circumstances, yet we feel the weight of alternate possibilities, roads not taken, moments where different choices could have created different outcomes. The theme of class resentment and economic injustice provides crucial context for Edith's choices. Her husband died working for a wealthy family, leaving her in precarious financial circumstances while the family who employed him continued their comfortable existence. This isn't just personal grievance, it's structural injustice, made personal. Edith sees the baby switch as redistribution, as taking what she's owed from a system that values wealthy lives over working-class lives. The drama doesn't excuse her actions, but it contextualizes them within larger questions about economic inequality and how it poisons human relationships. Connected to this is the exploration of what people believe they're owed. Edith believes she's owed compensation for her husband's death. Claire believes she's owed protection of her daughter's inheritance. Lucy, unknowingly, is owed a childhood free from abuse. Phoebe is owed knowledge of her true identity. The drama is essentially about competing claims of desert, all colliding in ways that ensure someone will be hurt, regardless of how things resolve. This mirrors real-world ethical dilemmas, where there's no solution that satisfies all legitimate claims, where justice for one person requires injustice for another. The concept of poetic justice, the idea that wrongdoers should suffer in ways that mirror their crimes, is embodied perfectly in the narrative's resolution. Edith wanted to steal Claire's daughter and hurt Claire through that daughter. Instead, she hurts her own daughter while loving Claire's. The symmetry is almost too perfect, raising the question, is this justice or just satisfying narrative construction? Does the universe actually work this way, or do we create stories where it does because we desperately want to believe in moral order? The drama operates in the space between these possibilities, offering poetic justice while questioning whether such perfection actually serves justice or just our desire for narrative closure. There's also an examination of how secrets corrupt relationships and communities. For 18 years, this secret sits at the center of multiple relationships, warping everything it touches. Claire and Edith's friendship is performance. Lucy's relationship with Edith is based on misidentification. Phoebe's relationship with Edith is built on lies. The drama suggests that secrets, especially secrets about identity and parentage, are poison that spreads through social networks, making authentic connection impossible, turning every interaction into theater. Finally, the drama explores the price of revenge, not just for the person targeted, but for the person seeking it. Claire achieves her goal, Edith is exposed, humiliated, loses everything. But Lucy is in a coma. Phoebe's identity is shattered, and Claire herself has spent 18 years carrying the burden of knowledge that required her to witness a child's suffering. Did she win? The drama's refusal to offer simple triumph suggests that revenge always costs more than we think we're willing to pay, and the bill comes due in ways we can't predict when we start down that path. Pewaris yang Ditukar Sahabatku is engineered to manipulate viewer emotions with surgical precision, creating an experience that oscillates between satisfaction and discomfort, between the cathartic pleasure of seeing justice served and the queasy recognition that the methods used to achieve that justice are themselves morally questionable. The drama understands that the most powerful emotional experiences come, not from simple feelings, but from conflicting ones held simultaneously. The ability to make us cheer for Claire's plan while feeling guilty about cheering for something that causes a child to suffer. The primary emotional manipulation technique is dramatic irony. We, the audience, know what Edith doesn't, that she's been outmaneuvered from the beginning, that every act of cruelty she directs at Lucy is actually directed at her own daughter, that her perceived triumph is actually her doom unfolding in slow motion. This knowledge creates a complex emotional cocktail. There's satisfaction. We're in on the secret. We're aligned with Claire. We get to feel intellectually superior to Edith. But there's also horror. We're watching a woman systematically abuse her own child, and the fact that she doesn't know Lucy is hers doesn't make the abuse less real or less damaging. The drama carefully calibrates when and how it delivers information to create maximum emotional impact. The revelation that Claire knows about the switch and has countered it probably comes early, ensuring we're not simply watching a victimization narrative, but rather a complex game of chess where both players think they're winning, but only one actually is. This transforms every subsequent scene. When we watch Edith being kind to Phoebe, we feel the bitter irony she's loving the wrong child. When we watch her abuse Lucy, we feel both righteous anger, she's hurting an innocent child, and tragic irony, she's hurting her own daughter. The drama makes us feel multiple emotions simultaneously, creating psychological richness that simple narratives can't achieve. The pacing of revelation serves emotional purposes. 18 years of build-up means that when the truth finally emerges publicly, the emotional release is proportionally intense. The drama makes us wait, makes us watch Lucy suffer scene after scene, makes us witness Edith's false confidence and Phoebe's innocent enjoyment of stolen privilege. This extended tension builds emotional pressure that demands release. When the DNA results are revealed, when Edith's face registers the horror of what she's done, the catharsis is earned through accumulated investment. But the drama doesn't let us simply enjoy that catharsis. Lucy ends up in a coma after being stabbed, a brutal intervention that prevents clean emotional resolution. Just when we think we can purely celebrate Edith's downfall, we're reminded that real people, especially innocent people, pay real prices in these revenge scenarios. This is emotionally sophisticated storytelling that refuses to let us feel simple triumph. It gives us the satisfaction we crave, but mixes in guilt, sadness, and moral ambiguity. We wanted justice, we got justice, but justice looks uglier than we hoped it would. The drama also manipulates viewer allegiance in interesting ways. Initially, we align completely with Claire. She's been wronged. Her friend betrayed her. She's protecting her daughter. As the narrative progresses and we watch Lucy's suffering accumulate year after year, some viewers might begin to question that alignment. Is Claire still the hero if she's allowing this to continue? This potential shift in viewer sympathy is emotionally destabilizing in the best way. It forces us to question our own moral framework, to wonder if we'd make Claire's choices, to feel uncomfortable with the fact that we've been rooting for a plan that requires a child to suffer. Edith as a character is designed to generate complicated emotional responses. She's clearly the antagonist. She planned to steal a baby. She abuses Lucy. She's driven by greed and resentment. We should hate her purely and simply. But the drama gives us context. She's a widow who lost her husband while he worked for the Watts family. She's economically vulnerable. Her grief has curdled into something toxic, but started from a place of genuine pain. This doesn't excuse her actions, but it complicates our emotional response. We can hate what she does while understanding, even pitying, how she got here. When her world collapses in the final revelation, we feel satisfaction, but also something that might be sympathy for someone confronting the worst moment of their life. Lucy functions as the emotional anchor for viewer discomfort. Every scene of her suffering is designed to make us feel helpless rage at Edith for inflicting it, but potentially also at Claire for allowing it to continue. Lucy is pure innocence being punished for crimes she didn't commit, for an identity she doesn't even know is false. The drama uses her suffering to keep us emotionally off balance, to prevent us from settling into comfortable judgment. We want her suffering to end, but we also understand, or at least the drama wants us to understand, why Claire believes it must continue until the trap is fully sprung. Phoebe generates a different emotional response, anticipatory grief. We watch her live her life in comfortable ignorance, knowing that everything she believes about herself will soon be destroyed. She's happy, she's loved, she has an identity and a future, and all of it is built on lies. The drama makes us dread the moment she learns the truth, makes us feel protective of her even though she's been benefiting from Lucy's suffering. This creates cognitive dissonance. Phoebe deserves to know the truth, but knowing the truth will hurt her terribly. There's no good option, only the least bad one. The final revelation scene is engineered for maximum emotional impact. Edith presumably approaches this moment with confidence. She's finally making official what she's believed for 18 years, finally claiming publicly what she thinks is rightfully hers. The audience knows what's coming, which creates almost unbearable tension. We're watching someone walk into their own destruction, and the drama makes us feel that approaching doom. When the truth emerges, the emotional payoff is complex. Relief, finally, satisfaction, justice, horror. Lucy's in a coma, and perhaps even a twinge of sympathy for Edith's complete psychological devastation. The drama's emotional architecture ultimately refuses to let us feel simple emotions. It wants us unsettled, questioning, caught between competing moral frameworks. It gives us the revenge plot we think we want, that makes us question whether we actually wanted it once we see the full cost. This is manipulation in service of moral complexity, using our emotional responses to force us to confront uncomfortable truths about justice, revenge, and the prices we're willing to let others pay for outcomes we desire. The most sophisticated emotional manipulation is making us complicit. By aligning us with Claire from the beginning, by making us privy to her plan, the drama makes us participants in the decision to let Lucy suffer. We could have wanted Claire to intervene earlier, but if we're honest, we probably wanted to see Edith get her perfect comeuppance. The drama makes us want the revenge, then makes us feel guilty for wanting it. This isn't just entertainment, it's emotional education, forcing us to recognize our own capacity for cruelty when it's dressed up as justice. The narrative structure of Pewaris, Young, Ditukar Sahabatku is built on a foundation of delayed revelation and extended irony that spans 18 years of story time. This isn't a thriller where secrets are quickly exposed and conflicts rapidly resolved. Instead, it's a slow burn revenge narrative where the structure itself mirrors the patience required of its protagonist. The decision to compress or expand different time periods creates meaning. The actual moment of the baby switch likely happens quickly in narrative time, but the 18 years of its consequences must be conveyed efficiently while still communicating the weight of accumulated suffering and deception. This creates a structural challenge. How do you convey nearly 2 decades of parallel deception without making the narrative feel repetitive or losing momentum? The drama likely employs time jumps, showing key moments across the years that illustrate the pattern. Edith's ongoing cruelty to Lucy, her affection for Phoebe, Claire's silent witness to both. Each selected scene must do double duty, advancing the chronology while deepening our understanding of the psychological toll this extended deception takes on everyone involved. The structure communicates that this isn't just about the initial crime and eventual revelation, it's about the years between, the slow accumulation of damage that can never be fully undone. The choice to reveal Claire's knowledge to the audience early, presumably, rather than holding it for a late-stage twist, is structurally significant. If we discovered alongside Edith at the end that Claire had known all along, the emotional experience would be completely different. We'd feel betrayed, shocked, possibly aligned with Edith's horror. But by bringing us into Claire's confidence early, the narrative makes us co-conspirators in her plan. We're not just observers, we're waiting with her, watching with her, complicit in her decision to let events unfold. This structural choice transforms the viewing experience from mystery to dramatic irony, from what will happen to when will it happen and how will it look. The narrative employs what we might call parallel tracking, showing us scenes from Edith's perspective where she believes she's winning, intercut with scenes from Claire's perspective where she knows the truth. This structure creates layers of meaning in every interaction between them. A simple conversation about their daughters carries completely different significance depending on whose perspective frames it. For Edith, it's an opportunity to secretly gloat about her successful deception. For Claire, it's an opportunity to gather more evidence of Edith's malice while maintaining her cover. For the audience, it's an exercise in dramatic irony that generates both tension and satisfaction. The rising action in this narrative isn't structured around external obstacles, but around the accumulation of evidence and the approach of inevitable revelation. Unlike a traditional 3-act structure where the protagonist must overcome challenges to achieve their goal, Claire's plan is essentially set from the beginning. The tension comes, not from whether she'll succeed, but from watching the components fall into place, watching Edith dig her hole deeper, watching Lucy's suffering mount, watching Phoebe's innocent life continue in false reality. This is less about overcoming obstacles and more about waiting for time to do its work, which is itself a structurally bold choice that risks losing viewer engagement, but, when done well, creates almost unbearable anticipation. The climax is clearly the moment of public revelation, when Edith attempts to legally claim Phoebe and the DNA test proves otherwise. Structurally, this is where all the narrative threads that have been carefully maintained for 18 years suddenly converge and explode. Everything that was hidden becomes visible. Everything believed to be true is revealed as false. Everyone's identity and relationships are simultaneously confirmed and destroyed. The structure makes this moment inevitable from the beginning, but inevitability doesn't reduce impact. If anything, knowing it's coming and watching characters who don't know walk toward it creates even more powerful emotional resonance. But the drama makes a crucial structural decision in what happens after the revelation. Lucy ends up in a coma after being stabbed. This is narratively significant because it prevents clean resolution. In a simpler revenge narrative, the climax would be Edith's humiliation, and we'd end with some version of restoration. Lucy reclaiming her inheritance, Phoebe adjusting to truth, everyone moving forward. By putting Lucy in a coma, the narrative refuses to let us simply enjoy Edith's downfall. The aftermath isn't celebration, but continued crisis, shifting the structural focus from revenge, completed, to consequences unfolding in ways no one fully controlled. This structural choice reflects a thematic sophistication. Revenge narratives that end with pure triumph are fantasies, and this drama has ambitions beyond fantasy. The coma introduces ambiguity into what should be the moment of clarity. Yes, truth is revealed and Edith faces consequences, but an innocent person lies between life and death. The structure asks, was it worth it? And by placing this question after the climactic revelation rather than before, it complicates our ability to simply celebrate the outcome we've been waiting for. the pacing of information reveal is carefully calibrated for emotional manipulation. We likely learn early that Claire knows about the switch and has countered it, establishing dramatic irony as the primary engine of tension. We probably don't learn all of Claire's motivations and feelings immediately. Those would be revealed gradually across the 18 years, deepening our understanding of her psychological state and moral reasoning. Key moments from Lucy's suffering would be strategically placed to keep us emotionally invested and ethically uncomfortable. Edith's backstory about her husband's death would be revealed at a point that complicates our pure hatred of her. The structure also has to navigate the challenge of making viewers care about characters in a situation where everyone except the children has made morally questionable choices. By leading with Edith's plan to switch babies, an unambiguously wrong act, the structure establishes her as antagonist before revealing the complexities. This allows us to condemn her clearly at first, then gradually introduces complications, her grief, her economic vulnerability, without fully redeeming her. Similarly, by establishing Claire as the wronged party first, we're on her side before we fully understand how far she'll go in pursuit of justice, at which point we're already invested enough to stay with her even as we become uncomfortable with her methods. The chronological span, 18 years, is itself structurally meaningful. This isn't impulsive revenge, but planned, patient, almost institutional in its scope. A shorter time frame wouldn't carry the same weight. A longer one might strain credibility. 18 years means both girls grow from infancy to adulthood within the lie, means Lucy suffers through her entire childhood and adolescence, means Edith lives in false triumph for a significant portion of her life, means Claire carries the secret through nearly 2 decades of life events. The structure uses time itself as a character, the relentless passage of years during which wrongs accumulate and truth waits. Pewaris, Ditukar Sahabatku, exists within and speaks to specific cultural anxieties about class, motherhood, trust, and the fragility of social order. While the switched baby trope is universal, appearing in literature and drama across cultures for centuries, this particular iteration channels contemporary concerns about economic inequality, the desperation it breeds, and how easily the structures we trust to define identity and inheritance can be manipulated by those willing to cross moral boundaries. The drama taps into deep-seated fears about class mobility and resentment. Edith's position as a widow of a driver who worked for a wealthy family places her at the intersection of proximity and exclusion that breeds particular bitterness. She's close enough to wealth to see it daily, to understand what it provides, to watch the comfortable lives of the family her husband served, but she's excluded from that comfort by the rigid boundaries of class. Her husband died in service to that wealth, making her simultaneously entitled in her mind and powerless. This reflects real-world tensions in societies with significant wealth gaps, where those who serve the wealthy develop complex psychological relationships with the inequality they witness up close. The decision to switch babies represents a perverse form of class warfare, not collective action or systemic change, but individual theft disguised as redistribution. Edith convinces herself that taking Phoebe's place for her daughter is justice, is evening cosmic scales, is claiming what's owed. This individualistic approach to inequality reflects how economic systems that promise meritocracy but deliver aristocracy create desperate people who seek personal solutions to structural problems. Edith can't change the system that left her vulnerable when her husband died, so she tries to game it, to insert her daughter into privilege through deception rather than earning or inheriting it legitimately. The drama also engages with cultural idealization and anxiety around motherhood. Across cultures, mothers are supposed to instinctively recognize and protect their children. The bond is mythologized as unbreakable, mystical, operating beyond conscious knowledge. But Edith's complete failure to recognize her own daughter demolishes this myth. She has no instinctive pull toward Lucy, no unconscious recognition that this child shares her DNA. This is culturally unsettling because it reveals that maternal love, as powerful as it can be, isn't mystical or automatic. It's learned, constructed, directed by belief and knowledge rather than biology alone. This challenges cultural narratives that essentialize motherhood, that claim mothers always know their children, that biology creates unbreakable bonds. The drama suggests something more uncomfortable, that we love who we believe we should love, and that belief is more powerful than blood. Edith loves Phoebe genuinely and completely. The love is real even though its object is wrong. This implies that maternal love, while profound, is also frighteningly malleable, dependent on social construction of relationships rather than on biology alone. The 18-year time frame also reflects cultural attitudes toward revenge and justice. In cultures that value patience, long-term thinking, and ultimate accountability over immediate resolution, Claire's approach might be seen as admirable. She is willing to wait, to let Edith fully commit to her crime, to ensure the punishment is perfectly calibrated to the offense. In cultures that prioritize immediate intervention and protection of the vulnerable, her approach might be seen as unconscionable. No amount of eventual justice justifies 18 years of a child's suffering. The drama explores how betrayal functions differently when it comes from intimates versus strangers. Edith isn't a random criminal, but Claire's friend, someone trusted with personal access to Claire's life and family. This betrayal by intimate reflects contemporary anxieties about trust in an era where we're told to be constantly vigilant, where anyone could be a threat, where the most dangerous people are often those closest to us. The drama validates paranoia while also mourning the loss of the ability to trust, showing how Edith's betrayal destroys not just Claire's sense of security, but the very possibility of authentic friendship between them. The switched baby plot also engages with contemporary anxieties about identity theft and fraud in a metaphorical sense. In an era where identity is increasingly documented, verified, legally authenticated through DNA and digital records, the drama shows how even our most basic identities, who our parents are, what family we belong to, can be stolen if someone is willing to lie persistently enough. Lucy and Phoebe live false identities for 18 years, their entire sense of self built on fraudulent foundations. This reflects broader cultural anxieties about authenticity in an age of performance, about whether we can ever truly know who anyone is, including ourselves. The role of DNA testing as the ultimate arbiter of truth reflects cultural shifts in how we understand identity and proof. The DNA test can't be argued with, can't be persuaded, can't be influenced by emotion or loyalty. It simply states biological fact. This represents a cultural faith in scientific truth as superior to social construction, even when that scientific truth destroys relationships and identities that felt real to everyone involved. The test reveals that feeling and fact can diverge completely, that emotional reality and biological reality don't always align, and that contemporary culture privileges the latter over the former. The drama also comments on how legal systems interact with family structures. Inheritance law is designed to pass wealth through biological lines, creating enormous incentives for fraud and desperate actions by those excluded from wealth. Edith's scheme only makes sense in a system where being born to the right parents can mean the difference between comfort and struggle, where accident of birth determines life trajectory more than merit or effort. The drama doesn't explicitly critique this system, but by showing the extremes it drives people to, it implicitly questions whether inheritance structures that create such different outcomes for children who did nothing to earn or deserve their positions are just. There's also cultural commentary on the performance of normalcy and how communities fail to see abuse happening in plain sight. For 18 years, Edith presumably abuses Lucy while maintaining social relationships, attending community events, presenting as a normal mother. This reflects real-world patterns where abuse often happens behind closed doors, while perpetrators maintain public personas of respectability. The drama suggests that communities often see what they expect to see, that we're not naturally vigilant about others' suffering when it's somewhat hidden, that social performance can mask terrible private realities. The resolution, with Lucy in a coma and Edith facing legal consequences, reflects cultural ambivalence about whether justice systems can actually address deep personal harms. Edith will presumably face legal punishment, but what punishment fits 18 years of abusing your own child while loving someone else's? What sentence addresses the theft of childhood, identity, and the mother-daughter relationship that should have been? The law can incarcerate Edith, but can't restore what was lost, can't give Lucy back her childhood or Phoebe her authentic identity. This suggests that formal justice, while necessary, is always incomplete when addressing intimate betrayals. Finally, The drama engages with cultural narratives about women as competitors for resources. Edith and Claire's friendship becomes rivalry, becomes warfare, all centered on securing advantages for their daughters. This reflects broader cultural patterns of how women, especially mothers, are positioned as competitors in systems where resources are scarce and children's futures depend on gaining advantage. Rather than solidarity and shared experiences of motherhood and economic vulnerability, the drama shows how scarcity drives women to betray each other, to see other mothers' children as threats to their own children's well-being. Pewaris, young Ditukar Sahabatku, exists within a rich tradition of family melodrama that stretches across cultures and decades, but it brings specific innovations to genre conventions that make it more than just another entry in the switched baby subgenre. The drama is in conversation with countless narratives about mistaken identity, stolen inheritance, and maternal bonds tested by circumstance, from classical literature to contemporary television dramas. But it distinguishes itself through its moral complexity and willingness to implicate its protagonist in ethically questionable behavior. The switched baby trope itself has ancient roots, appearing in folklore and literature across cultures. These stories traditionally serve as thought experiments about nature versus nurture, about what defines family, about whether blood or upbringing creates identity. Classic versions often involve accidental switches, babies mistakenly swapped in hospitals, children lost and raised by others, where the tragedy comes from circumstance rather than malice. Pewaris, young Ditukar Sahabatku, updates this tradition by making the switch intentional and malicious, transforming the trope from tragedy of error into crime thriller territory. Where this drama innovates within the genre is in the double switch structure. Edith plans to switch the babies, but Claire discovers the plan and switches them back without Edith's knowledge. This creates a narrative architecture where the villain believes she succeeded while actually living her own worst nightmare. This isn't just dramatic irony. It's structural irony that shapes every scene for 18 years. The genre convention would typically involve the switched child eventually discovering their true identity and reclaiming their inheritance. Here, the biological mother knows from the beginning, transforming the narrative from discovery story to revenge story. This places the drama in conversation with revenge narratives like The Count of Monte Cristo, where protagonists orchestrate elaborate, long-term plans to destroy their enemies. Claire shares with Edmond Dantes the patience to wait years for the perfect moment, the intellectual capacity to manipulate circumstances, and the moral certainty, or at least claimed certainty, that her actions serve justice rather than mere vengeance. But where Dumas presents his protagonist's revenge as ultimately righteous, if costly, Pewaris, young Ditukar Sahabatku is more ambivalent about whether Claire's methods are justified, particularly given Lucy's suffering. The drama also engages with the genre of maternal melodrama stories, centered on mothers' relationships with children, often involving separation, mistaken identity, or tested bonds. Classic examples span from Stella Dallas to countless Korean and Chinese family dramas. These stories typically celebrate maternal sacrifice and the unbreakable nature of mother-child bonds. Pewaris, young Ditukar Sahabatku, both honors and subverts this tradition. It shows maternal love, Edith genuinely loving the child she believes is hers, but also shows how easily that love can be misdirected when circumstances confuse identity. In the landscape of contemporary Asian drama, this story fits within a popular subgenre of birth secret, narratives where hidden parentage drives plot and character development. Korean dramas like Secret Garden and countless others have explored similar territory. But many of these dramas sentimentalize the revelation. Long-lost children are reunited with biological families, and love conquers all complications. Pewaris, young Ditukar Sahabatku is darker, refusing to suggest that discovering biological truth automatically heals the damage done by years of living in falsehood. Lucy doesn't simply step into her rightful inheritance and live happily, she ends up in a coma. The drama's treatment of class conflict places it in conversation with narratives about economic inequality and how it distorts human relationships. From Parasite to Crazy Rich Asians to countless dramas exploring wealth gaps, contemporary Asian cinema has been grappling with how money shapes identity, opportunity, and moral choice. Edith's motivation resentment over her husband's death while serving a wealthy family reflects this broader cinematic conversation about how proximity to wealth without access to it breeds particular forms of desperation and resentment. The influence of crime procedurals and legal dramas is also evident in the structure. The build-up to the DNA test revelation has the procedural logic of evidence being gathered and presented, of truth being scientifically verified rather than emotionally claimed. This reflects contemporary cultural trust in forensic evidence and legal processes to resolve disputes that earlier generations might have resolved through social negotiation or family councils. The courtroom, or equivalent formal setting, becomes the theater where private truths become public facts. What distinguishes Pewaris yang Ditukar Sahabatku from many genre predecessors is its refusal to provide clear moral orientation. Traditional melodrama relies on our ability to identify heroes and villains, to know who deserves our sympathy. This drama makes that identification difficult. Edith is clearly wrong to plant the baby switch and abuse Lucy, but she's also a grieving widow driven by economic desperation. Claire is clearly protecting her daughter, but she's also allowing another child to suffer for 18 years to achieve perfect revenge. Genre convention would clarify these moral positions. This drama deliberately blurs them. The drama also distinguishes itself through the extended time frame. 18 years of living. A lie is longer than most switched. Baby narratives sustain the deception. This temporal extension changes the stakes. We're not watching babies who will barely remember their switched childhoods. We're watching entire personalities formed under false circumstances, relationships built on fraudulent foundations, identities constructed around lies. The revelation doesn't just correct a mistake, it demolishes everything multiple people believed about themselves. In terms of cinematic influence, the drama draws from thriller traditions in how it builds tension through dramatic irony, the audience knowing what characters don't, watching them walk toward inevitable disaster. But it combines this with the emotional intensity of family melodrama, where relationships matter more than plot mechanics. This hybrid approach, thriller structure, with melodrama content creates a unique viewing experience that satisfies audiences seeking both intellectual engagement, figuring out how revelation will occur, and emotional investment, caring about these characters' fates. The drama's legacy will likely influence future narratives about revenge, justice, and the ethics of allowing suffering in service of eventual accountability. It demonstrates that family melodrama can engage with sophisticated moral questions without losing emotional accessibility, that genre narratives can question their own conventions while still delivering the satisfactions those conventions promise. By making its protagonist morally ambiguous while maintaining her as the character we follow most closely, it challenges future storytellers to create complex protagonists who resist easy moral categorization. In the broader conversation about what justice looks like and whether revenge can ever be righteous, Pewaris yang Ditukar Sahabatku offers a contribution that refuses simple answers while providing the narrative satisfaction of seeing a villain trapped by her own malice, even as it forces us to question whether we should be satisfied by suffering, regardless of who experiences it or why. What lingers after experiencing Pewaris yang Ditukar Sahabatku isn't the satisfying click of justice served, but the uncomfortable weight of questions without clean answers. This drama doesn't let viewers walk away feeling righteously satisfied. Instead, it plants seeds of moral ambiguity that grow into persistent discomfort about our own capacity for rationalization, our own hunger for revenge disguised as justice, our own willingness to accept collateral damage when pursuing outcomes we've decided are righteous. The lasting image is likely Edith's face at the moment of revelation, when the DNA results prove that Lucy, the child she's abused for 18 years, is actually her biological daughter, and Phoebe, the child she's loved with genuine maternal devotion, belongs to Claire. This isn't just shock or disappointment, it's the total collapse of reality, the horrifying realization that every act of love was misdirected, and every act of cruelty was self-inflicted. That moment crystallizes the drama's central truth. hatred, when pursued with absolute conviction, inevitably curves back on itself and destroys the hater more completely than any external enemy could. But the drama refuses to let us simply enjoy Edith's devastation. Lucy lies in a coma, a visceral reminder that in wars between adults, children pay prices they never agreed to and can't survive. This image, an innocent young woman hovering between life and death because of schemes set in motion before she was old enough to remember, indicts everyone. It indicts Edith for her malice, Claire for her calculated patience, and perhaps even us as viewers for enjoying the dramatic irony that required Lucy's suffering to achieve maximum impact. The drama's greatest strength is its refusal to simplify moral complexity. Claire is our protagonist, the wronged friend, the protective mother, yet her methods require her to witness and permit a child's systematic abuse for nearly 2 decades. The drama never explicitly condemns her, but it doesn't exonerate her either. It simply presents her choices and their consequences, trusting viewers to wrestle with whether the righteousness of exposing Edith justifies the cost of how that exposure was achieved. This moral ambiguity is rare in melodrama, which typically provides clear heroes and villains. By blurring those lines, the drama achieves something more sophisticated. It makes us complicit in Claire's choices by making us want to see Edith's perfect comeuppance, then forces us to confront what we were willing to accept to get it. The drama's exploration of identity, what makes us who we are, resonates beyond the specific plot. Lucy and Phoebe become embodiments of the nature versus nurture debate, living evidence that we're shaped by both biology and environment in ways that can't be neatly separated. When truth emerges, neither girl can simply step into the life they should have had. Lucy can't erase 18 years of abuse by learning her DNA entitles her to wealth. Phoebe can't unknow that the mother who raised her isn't her biological mother, that the identity she's built is constructed on fraudulent foundations. The drama suggests that identity theft, even when corrected, leaves permanent scars, that there's no reset button that restores people to who they would have been if the crime had never occurred. Who should watch this drama? It's not for viewers seeking simple catharsis or heartwarming family reconciliation. It's for those willing to sit with moral discomfort, to question their own assumptions about justice and revenge, to recognize that the most dangerous thing about self-righteousness is how good it feels even when it requires us to do or permit terrible things. It's for viewers who understand that the line between victim and perpetrator can blur when victims become architects of others' suffering in pursuit of retribution. The drama succeeds most powerfully in its treatment of time as both weapon and wound. 18 years! The length of Claire's patience and Lucy's suffering becomes almost a character in itself, the medium through which revenge ferments from impulse into institution. This temporal scope forces us to consider what we'd be willing to wait for, what we'd be willing to watch happen in service of eventual justice, how long we could carry a secret that grows heavier with each passing day. Claire's endurance is simultaneously impressive and disturbing, evidence of either profound moral conviction or obsessive need for perfect revenge. The drama's weakness, if we can call it that, is that its very sophistication might frustrate viewers seeking clearer emotional resolution. We want to celebrate justice achieved, but Lucy's coma complicates that celebration. We want to condemn Edith utterly, but her genuine grief over her husband and her authentic love for Phoebe humanize her in ways that make complete condemnation feel insufficient. We want to admire Claire's intelligence and patience, but her willingness to let Lucy suffer raises questions about whether she's truly heroic or just effective at justifying collateral damage. Rewatchability comes not from discovering new plot twists, but from examining character motivations with fresh perspective. Knowing the full story from the beginning, second-time viewers can watch Edith's interactions with Lucy and Phoebe with the knowledge she lacks, can see Claire's performance of ignorance as the sophisticated act it is, can track how both women's facades occasionally slip in ways that might be invisible on first viewing. The drama rewards attention to psychological detail rather than plot surprise. The cultural and artistic legacy of Pewaris, young Ditukar Sahabatku, will likely rest on its willingness to complicate revenge narratives that typically feel satisfying and straightforward. By refusing to let viewers simply enjoy a villain's downfall, by implicating the protagonist in ethically questionable choices, by showing that revenge achieved still leaves everyone damaged, The drama challenges future storytellers to create more morally complex narratives about justice, family, and the prices we're willing to pay or willing to make others pay for outcomes we believe are righteous. What gives this drama lasting value is its recognition that the most important battles aren't between pure good and pure evil, but between competing goods, between legitimate claims that can't all be honored simultaneously, between justice and mercy when they point in different directions. Edith deserves consequences for her malice. But does she deserve the specific torture of realizing she destroyed her relationship with her own child? Lucy deserves to be protected from abuse. But does achieving that protection justify making her the bait in an 18-year trap? These questions don't have answers that feel entirely right, only answers that feel less wrong than the alternatives. The drama ultimately asks us to examine our own relationships with revenge, justice, and the stories we tell ourselves to justify actions we want to take anyway. It's a mirror that reflects back our capacity for cruelty when we believe we're serving justice, our hunger for perfect ironic punishment, even when achieving it requires suffering we're not the ones experiencing. What lingers isn't the plot, but the uncomfortable self-recognition that Claire's choices, while extreme, reflect patterns of rationalization we all engage in when deciding that our ends justify others' means, that our righteousness excuses our methods, that justice delayed until it becomes revenge is still somehow justice.